never smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some disease. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to run. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome, guys. Miss Liz is back, and that's right. I have CC Robinson in the house, and we were just talking in the background that CC was supposed to be on Tea Time, but she had some medical conditions that did not allow her to come the first time. So we're going to talk about that tonight, this afternoon on our Tea Time as well, and give you a little bit of information on that. But we're going to give you some information on both of her books since she wasn't on the first time. We're going to have both books pop up, and we're going to get her to talk about that, and we're going to talk about all the other good stuff. We're going to talk a really good, strong cup of tea today. So her first cup of tea was, let me get the book. Her first tea was Tenacious, Entrepreneurial, and Author. And today's tea time is Tenacious, Engaging with Other Communities, and Entertaining Enterprises. That's right. I put the entertaining in there because we thought it was a little chuckle back in the stage. So, but before we get started, we're going to get you guys all over to Miss Liz's YouTube channel and Spotify channel and all those podcast apps out there. And we're going to get you to follow, subscribe, and share these tea times with all of your communities and networks out there. So each tea time does make a difference when we start sharing. But now let's get into the disclaimer and then a beautiful intro. And then we're going to get CC in here and we're going to spill some tea with you guys. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicated to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I, Miss Liz, is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guest viewers and participants are responsible for using their own judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of this discussion, you are welcome to contact me directly at my email, bookingmissliz@gmail.com, or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate and comment on or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. Myself, Miss Liz, is welcoming you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect those wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Now let me give you a little intro onto who I have sitting in the back studio. So today I have the pleasure of welcoming back an extraordinary guest. She was here in spirit the first time and in person here today. Guest CC Robinson, a storyteller of heart since childhood. CC has carried her love of words from her first published fiction in 4th grade to her current world of writing, both fiction and nonfiction. She is not only an author, but also a wife, mom, and associate pastor in Cincinnati, where she continues to live out her passion for guiding others. By night, CC steps into her imaginative realms of divided, her own dystonia creation, balancing storytelling with her deep roots in community, faith, and family. She brings wisdom from her years as a commercial lender, her medical and public health training, and her dedication to nonprofit work, making her voice a blend of heart, purpose, and creativity. Today, we'll sip on her stories, her journey, and the lessons she continues to share with the world. So, without further delay, let me welcome her in and let's have some tea with Cece Robinson.
Hi, Miss
Welcome,
Liz.
Cece.
I
Hi.
brought my own tea.
I am so glad that we got to talk because when you
Mm.
mentioned that you weren't here the first time, I was just like, oh yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah.
So, so Cece, let's get into that first, and then we'll get into the books.
Mhm. So yeah, I completely lost my voice for like 3 weeks last fall into the winter, and I can't tell you how like tired of writing notes I got, and I am not very good at like speaking well enough so people can read my lips. It was just a mess. But yeah, that came after it a long course, like almost 5 or 6 years of battling sinus and asthma issues and, all the infections that go with all that and the surgeries and different treatments, and they tested me for a lot of different things and really never really figured out why I got so bad. But the net result was that I was here in November when I was, or maybe even October when I was supposed to be with you. I couldn't talk. I was on vocal rest. So that was a really difficult road and difficult time. And it wasn't the end. You think, okay, rest your voice, you'll be fine, right? No, it was not. No.
So, did you have asthma as a little child, or?
I developed asthma when I was about 7, maybe 8. I remember at elementary school, playing soccer outside and running around and just getting winded and not being able to do the workouts. And I'm an athlete, like I've been an athlete my whole life. And so that was a little concerning. But yeah, I was not diagnosed formally until my 20s because I had the cough variant, which if anyone knows asthma, they know that there's the kind that the wheezing, and then there's the kind where you just cough. And so I just coughed and coughed and coughed and would get diagnosed with bronchitis, which I probably had also. But yeah, they didn't figure that out until I was in my 20s. But
Wow.
it started, I can look back now and it started when I was about 7. And I had bad allergies my whole life. So that was, it kind of like wove together, you know?
So, are you okay today, or is there some training or therapy or anything that
I
you?
would say I'm recovering still. We finally got all the sinus and asthma issues under a reasonable control. They don't really know why everything flared so badly, or kind of what's going on, but through just like a cocktail of different interventions, I've gotten to the place where I'm no longer struggling with asthma or with sinus issues. And so I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to like fix the voice. And so I just actually went today to my first speech therapy appointment where I've been told I don't know how to breathe. Do you know how to breathe?
Oh, I don't know. Do we know how to breathe? Maybe
You know
we
how
all
to
need
breathe.
lessons on breathing, right?
I mean, I'm in my 50s and evidently I've been breathing wrong my entire life. You know how you inhale and your shoulders go up and down? They're like, nope, nope, nope. Inhale and make your chest, your stomach go out instead. And I'm like, oh, that's different. But okay, now there's like, it's evidently you're supposed to breathe with your whole body. So I have to practice breathing, Liz.
Well, maybe we all need to practice. Like maybe we're all breathing wrong, right? We think we're just in and out. Well, look, my shoulders went up. Like I'm not breathing
Yeah, I
right.
mean, people do it.
I
We're
mean,
not breathing right either.
right? But maybe we're taught right from a young age not to breathe correctly.
I don't know. Of course, I talked to my oldest daughter who's a singer, and she's like, of course you breathe from your diaphragm, mom. Didn't you pay attention when I was in choir practice all those years? I was like, kind of not actually.
That was your job to sing, not mine.
I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. And so she's like been working with me on like the vocal warm-ups and all that. And I can't do half of them because I still like my voice, I lose range in sort of the midway, the midpoint. So I can't sing yet. I can sing high. I have a head voice now. That's new as of July, but I don't have anything in between, like the speaking voice and the really high stuff. So I just kind of lose it. Nothing.
So, Cece, did you ever think of putting that into your next book? Your journey with breathing?
I think it is a kind of a metaphor, because sometimes like we go through life and it's just like do, go focus, do, continue, accomplish, achieve all this stuff. And it's really like been in the last year that I have been forced by my body to stop and to literally breathe. And to be now learning how to breathe feels like learning how to walk after a foot surgery or something like that. Um, and so, yeah, I think there's a lot, and I probably am not even using my voice right now. But you know what? My speech therapist will fix that. She'll fix it later.
You just had your first class, girl. Give yourself
I
a
did.
break.
It's only a half hour. Like I was already overwhelmed. So she's like, "Oh, we're done. See you next week."
Well, it is a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like you've lived half a century and you just found out that you weren't breathing right.
Hey, I was doing one thing right though. I was drinking enough water. She goes, "Okay, good for you."
Well, that's good. We got to get
So
our
I was
water in
like,
there and get
"Hey,
our breathing right? Like,
pat myself on the back. I'm drinking enough
absolutely.
water."
So let's talk about your tea, because your tea it changed, and I
Yeah.
noticed that, and we kind of had a little chuckle in the back when I put the
Yeah.
entertaining and in there. So tell me why those words that you gave me for your tea.
I think, as I've gone through this journey of chronic illness and there was some point in time I was down to about 2 hours a day of like useful productivity. And for someone who has achieved their whole life, that was really humbling. I had to ask for help. Like, oh my gosh, I had to ask for help. But I also had to like really recognize, okay, I can do this, but should I? And I've learned to say no, and I've learned to also not give up. And so, like, that's why I chose the first word T, tenacious. That one stayed the same
Yeah.
through both shows. So I've just over the course of my career, at first as a medical doctor in working in post Civil War nations, and now as an indie author and through my illness, I've seen people survive what should be impossible to survive. Whether it's in Sierra Leone and they're surviving 30 years of civil war, or people who are surviving chronic illness and still publishing books. I have friends who just struggle with their bodies, and yet they keep publishing, they keep writing, they keep doing it. And so I've learned that I'm capable of doing a whole lot more than I really think I am, and it's made me want to really persevere despite the obstacles.
Yep.
Despite everything that's kind of getting thrown in my path, just continuing to persevere is really, it's served me well as an indie author, over changes and different things going on in the industry, the introduction of AI, all these things, just continuing to tenaciously put pen to paper and not give up.
I like that, pen to paper. We got to really stick to that pen to paper, no matter what's coming at us, right?
Mhm.
Over the centuries, like we put ink to paper. We got to keep that
Mhm.
ink on that paper, because if we
Absolutely.
don't, we're gonna disappear. Like, we're not gonna
Mhm.
be around anymore,
Yeah.
right? So we have a couple questions, and you were kind of getting into it a little bit as you were explaining your tea here. And the question came in is, how have your years of working in post-Civic War nations shaped your approach to storytelling?
So like I said, I've definitely seen people survive their version of the apocalypse and come out the other side with courage and with hope and reconciling. I've seen people who, um, one killed the other's family, and now they're forgiven, reconciled, and working together. Like, you just can't say that things aren't possible, that, oh, this is impossible and it's never going to get better. Really? Because I've seen the really, really bad things happen. And I've seen the other side, and I've seen hope, and I've seen people very courageously forgive and very courageously build their society again. And so that definitely bleeds into my dystopian stories. And I chose young adult dystopian on purpose, because I think like the classic dystopian 1984, I mean, it's kind of bleak. But the young adult dystopian, Hunger Games, Divergent, Maze Runner, there's always like this thread of hope and courage and tenacity. And it's like you can't tell an 18-year-old they can't do something, because then they're going to go prove you wrong. And I kind of like that about them.
Well, it's
And so
always
that's
the
why,
opposite, right? You tell them not to cross
yeah,
the street, they cross the street.
across the street. Yes, exactly. It's exactly right. So that's why I chose that. And that's why it's bled, that experience has definitely bled into my narratives.
I want to get into the books. I'll get into these questions a little bit during
Mhm.
the show, but I want to get into the books before we forget the books. But I want to talk about the first book that we were going to
Mhm.
talk about on the first tea time, and I'm going to bring it up. Can you share a little bit about the
Yeah.
cover, a little bit of the insight, and all that
Mhm.
good stuff?
So the whole Divided series happens 45 years after the United States experiences a civil war that we fight over racial issues. A dictator takes power and he divides us pretty much indiscriminately into ethnic groups based on just how we look. And it's not like there's DNA testing or like even asking people, what do you identify as? No, you just get shoved someplace. And it's really not about, okay, we're going to separate you guys because you can't work together. It's more about control and a dictator. And so 45 years go by and these kids are growing up and they've never met someone from another ethnicity. So enter Marcos. This is Marcos. He is the star of the show in Divided. I have 4 different protagonists, but this is the book where Marcos gets to take the lead in advancing the plot. So he has an abusive father, and he's just wants to escape the city. He's just tired of being in the walls. He's tired of being controlled by his dad, and he figures out a way to get over that wall. Except he doesn't realize that the regime can track him through his chip. That doesn't come about till later. He didn't realize that till later. And he gets caught and he ends up in a secret and illegal labor camp outside of his city. And it's then he realizes, oh, I've gone from one set of walls to another set of walls, except here I'm being abused on a regular basis by guards and by the regime. And he just realizes, if I want freedom, I'm going to have to find some friends. And so he does that. He collaborates with a whole group, meets people in the underground resistance movement, meets the other 3 protagonists, and they work together and they trust each other and they do what's impossible.
So, for the audio listeners out there, can you describe a little bit of the cover of the book so
Yeah.
they can
So
get like the feel of it? What it
yeah,
looks
so
like?
it shows Marcos facing away from us. He's a boxer, so you can tell he's pretty muscular, and he's staring at the corner of the wall as if he's backed himself into the corner, but now he's staring at it like, I'm going to take you on. And the wall itself is 20-foot impregnable concrete block with barbed wire and glass on the top of it, but it's also impregnated with the sonic barrier, and the lightning bolts are how the cover designer has chosen to signify the sound. The sound as sort of electrical, because we can't really see sound, but if he got too close, the wall itself would catapult him back, and so it's sort of meant to convey that feeling that it's dangerous to get close to the wall. And then even the Divided logo, the title has a line through the V indicating the division in the society.
And it's perfect time for this book to be talked about today, with
Yes.
everything going on in the world.
Yes.
I don't want to bring any attention to what's going on, but it's out there, right? But
Oh yeah.
having this conversation today with you, Cece,
Mhm.
it makes a lot of sense, right? The walls, the
Yes.
division, that there's so much going on.
Mhm.
We
Yes.
have a question that came in about Divided, so I want to get that question out to you.
Mhm.
If Divided became a film or series, who would you dream to see play your lead character?
This is, people probably aren't going to like this answer. I want someone who's not yet known. I
Awesome.
want I want a young actor who this is going to be the thing that catapults him into being famous. But I will say, if Rob Lowe is listening, I would love for him to be the villain, because I think he tends to get cast as like the good guy, but I really think he could play Hudson Burtwell quite well. And that would be Jason's dad. He's the main villain for the first and second books. Um, but he's really the only one that I have in mind. Everyone else, I want it to be surprising for me, which I love surprises.
Let's break the ice, right? Let's bring a
Yeah.
new actor into the field.
Mhm.
We got to do that. We got to
Mhm.
bring new faces into stuff sometimes. I
Yes.
like that answer.
Agreed.
I really like that answer. And I think Rob Lowe could do it. Like, Rob, if you're listening out there, you may want to reach out to
Come on.
CC and have a conversation.
Let's do it. Come on.
You just never know who's listening to Tea Time, because I'm amazed by who's reaching out to Miss Liz for Tea Time
You
this
just
year.
never know.
You never know. Just have that open conversation, and you might open some doors that will surprise you.
Yeah.
So CC, we have another question here. Cincinnati Underground Railroad history,
Mhm.
inspired, divided. How do you weave
Mhm.
real history into this dystopian fiction in a way that
Mhm.
feels authentic and powerful?
Yeah, so we have a Underground Railroad museum here in Cincinnati, and we first moved up here in 2012. I had already had the all-night dream where I saw um, the plot of Divided and met my characters, but I didn't yet know how to accomplish it. And when we were in the Underground Railroad Museum, I was like, "Oh, this is it. This is it," because the Underground Railroad was how escaped slaves made it to freedom. And I have a coaster here, Harriet Tubman, and it's my favorite quote from her. I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. Now I was free. There was such a glory over everything. I felt like I was in heaven. And I wanted that same idea, that same longing for freedom, that same wondering, am I going to be the same if I no longer have walls, to come into my narrative? And so borrowing the underground name was very intentional. Setting it into the tunnels under Cincinnati, as far as the underground resistance movement, was very intentional. There are tunnels. I've expanded and fictionalized them like mad, but that's okay. That's what we do as writers, right? And so I wanted that idea that there are people working together to find a way around the oppression, to find a way to end the oppression. I wanted that to come out in the narratives.
So what got you into the Civil War history and all of that, CC?
I think some of that was being a pastor in a racially diverse congregation, an ethnically diverse congregation. I've had to grow in the skill set of understanding people from a different background. And I do call it a skill set because it's not something we just come wired knowing how to do. In fact, I would say the default is to not want to understand someone who's different from you. And so I added that skill set over the course of many years. And so that was really the birthplace of wanting to investigate the Civil War, understand our country's history from a different point of view. So I read lots of firsthand accounts of slaves, many narratives that most people would never have even touched, as well as the famous ones like 12 Years a Slave, or Harriet Tubman's writings, other writings from that era. So I wanted to bring the feeling of that era, that there's fighting, there's contention over something, but also bring the experience of people all over the world who live under oppression to bear in how the city felt, in how Queenstown, my fictional setting, feels, and how the labor camps in particular in Divided felt.
And we don't talk about that enough, the history.
Oh
We're
no.
kind of like trying to erase history.
I
And
don't think
it's
it's going to work.
no, right? Because it happened.
No,
So we can't
no,
just sweep it under the carpet. It
no.
happened, you know,
No, it's like when you're in the pool and you've got a beach ball and you try to press it down under the surface, that thing is going to come flying up in your face at some point.
right? And it's going to hit hard.
It is. It is. And that's why I write. That's why I wrote this series, is that I see us going down this path as a nation, and I am so passionate that people would wake up and see where we're headed.
So let's get into the second book, because the
Yes.
second book, like, I'm noticing something with these covers. is a
Yes.
the colors and that, but there's
Yes.
also a lot. So let me bring up the second book for all the viewers
Mhm.
out there that can see it, and then for the audio, give them a little insight on what it looks like for as well.
Yes. So here we have book Caged is the title. And we have Rose, another one of my main characters, literally in a cage. Um, we've got a bare bulb with actual bars and kind of a light source coming out. And she's facing away from the camera. And she's a tad bit disheveled. Her hair's not the perfect ponytail that it probably could be. It's come a little bit out because she's in captivity. And yes, you do notice the same color blue. I happen to really like blue, but I also wanted there to be a combination of the feeling that blue gives us in a kind of a it gives me a calm, peaceful feeling, but here it's used in such a juxtaposed way with the walls and the cage. And in the later covers, you'll notice the same kind of themes going on that it makes us think like, okay, is it really what I'm seeing? Like, is why is this blue? Why isn't this red? Angry. But oh, there's a dynamic here that I need to understand. And hopefully that sparks reader curiosity.
Well, for me, the blue is kind of like it's cold and heavy, right? And
Okay,
these are heavy topics that
they are.
that need to bring awareness to. So the blue, it's not a bad thing. It's not a negative thing. It's a
No.
positive thing because it's showing
Mhm.
how heavy history is,
Mhm.
and that
Mhm.
we're trying to erase it, right? And it's
Yeah.
like that beach ball, right? It's going to come up and it's going to hit.
Yes. But even in the midst of that heaviness and the heaviness of the topics, I wanted the excuse me, I wanted the colors to also have light in them. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
like the pinpricks of light in Caged, the light from the lightning bolts in Divided, and then you'll see it in Betrayed and United as well. I haven't revealed those covers yet, but there's the same kind of sparks of light that will grow as the series goes forward.
Well, for all the audio out there and listeners, you can see the light
Mhm.
coming in through the cages and the walls.
Mhm.
Like you said, like the lightning and the light switch
Mhm.
and everything. There's light there, right? Because there's a light to an answer to a solution, not
Yes.
to repeat it. You know, uh,
Mhm.
and that's how we're not going to repeat history. Is if we start learning history and changing it, like not
Yep.
erase it, but find solutions
Absolutely.
on not to repeat it.
Mhm.
So I want to get into, we have a couple questions here as well, and I want to get those out to you. So one here is, if you could step into one of your character's shoes for a day, who would it be?
I think my most natural fit is going to be Rose. In my youth, I probably struggled with that anger and stubbornness that she has. But I would really love to see life through Harriet's eyes. Writing book 3 has been a challenge and a joy all at the same time because Harriet is a healer. And so she's like who I would love to be when I grow up, kind of in a way. But she has some trauma, and that comes out at the end of Cage. No spoilers, but book 3 is really her healing journey, and she sees the world very differently from me. I wouldn't mind living a day or two in her shoes, just to understand.
So how do you build your characters, Cece?
So they introduced themselves to me, but then I had to figure out who they were. And so I did a lot of backstory writing, writing their backstory scenes from when they were young. Started at about 8 years old, and then moved forward through their teen years. That really helped me get to know them. But when I put them in the driver's seat is when I really get to know them. So when I wrote Divided and Marcos was the character driving the plot, that's when he would, I mean, literally, my characters talk to me. A lot of authors say this, but he would say to me, I wouldn't do that. And then this is what I would do. And he would just tell me, Rose just fought me on it. She just stubbornly would say no. And I want to do this. And they'll be like, what, girl? What are you doing? Harriet was much kinder, but also had her own stubbornness. And Jason definitely has his insecurities and his fears we're dealing with right now. And I'm writing book 4 as we speak.
Well, I like that you said that the characters talk to you because,
Mhm.
it's like that inner voice, right? No, don't do that. Don't do that. And
Yeah,
then, yeah, let's try
yeah,
that way. Let's go
yeah,
left instead of right,
yeah,
Oh no, we're going to fall. So we're building a story by the
yes,
voices that are being
yeah,
spoken to us. I completely get that as a
mhm,
writer as well, CC.
mhm.
A lot of people out there and listeners out there that are not writers will be like, what voices are you guys talking about?
They
It's
think
the
I'm nuts.
writer's voice.
They probably think I'm nuts. But I do use, different personality profiles, including the Enneagram, to really get to know my characters as well as kind of plot out what their growth journey would look like. So it's not completely like woo woo. They talk to me, There's some science there too.
Well, we have some spirits that come once in a while. Give us a little poke. Hey, you're not doing it right. You know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're writing another book and that as well, CC. So we
Mhm.
can get you back on Tea Time again for that in the future.
Yeah.
Uh, so I want to get into the doctor and pastor
Mhm.
uh, part of your life story. So what got you
Mhm.
into the doctory and pastor work?
I started out my career in commercial lending, working for a bank up in Chicago, and after a couple of years, I just realized, like, I don't like selling money. It just occurred to me one day, and I'm like, I really want to do something that benefits mankind or humankind. And so I took some career tests and aptitudes, tests and different things. And they told me, like, actually, you're really gifted in science, even though I hadn't done science since high school. So I went back to get some college level science courses and ended up going through med school. I really wanted to start a medical clinic in the inner city of Chicago. That was really my long term vision. I wanted to serve the underserved, and just God had other ideas from that. So I ended up at Vanderbilt University and did my MD, was their first master's in public health dual degree candidate. And so I took that passion for public health and wove it into medical clinics. And God just sort of sent us to post Civil War nations. It started out in Afghanistan, and shortly after, we kind of, as a nation, secured Kabul, I will say. And so we had a clinic there in the university until um, the Taliban started resurging, and then we had to pull our personnel. And so after that, we're like, okay, well, where else are we going to go? And so we went to Colombia in South America during that nation's internal turmoil. And we started medical clinics up in the mountain areas near where the rebels were. And at the same time, kind of about concurrently, we met some people from Sierra Leone and went over there and did a lot of work. That was our longest running work, actually. Right after their civil war ended, we worked for 10 years in collaboration with a local nonprofit there. And they are some of the best leaders on the face of the earth. It's a
You,
joy. It was a joy and honor to serve them.
Cece, you just mentioned Sierra, and I have a question here that came in for
Yeah.
you. You worked in nations emerging from civil war from Sierra Leone to
Mhm.
Colombia. How do those lived experiences influence the themes of resilience and justice in your Divided series?
They absolutely do. I saw people surviving their version of the apocalypse. You think about a civil war or any war happening in your area where you have to flee for your life and your daily routines are disrupted. People that you love may die. And so it can feel like your life is over or your nation's ending. But yet I saw people not only survive that, but then come out on the other side forgiving the same people that had killed their families or decimated their villages, forgiving them and then working together toward peace together. So I feel like if they could do it, I needed to show Americans, I needed to show young people that no matter what obstacle you face, there is a way through it. But you might have to do it in collaboration with people that you wouldn't have ordinarily trusted or worked with.
And sometimes it opens up a new door and a new opportunity
Mhm.
as well, right? By working with somebody you would have never thought, no, what am I going to do with
Absolutely.
you? And
Mhm.
then it opens up that mind of, Oh,
Mhm.
okay. So let's look at this different perspective, right?
Mhm.
And it goes right back to what's going on with your book, What Divided, right? The
Yeah.
division. We're going to continue to
Mhm.
have division if we don't start looking at different perspectives in an open
Yes.
heart and open mind situations.
Yes. Absolutely. Agreed 100%.
We have a question here. Can you share a moment from your cross culture experiences that changed the way you see the world?
I think that goes back to just being a pastor in a multi-ethnic congregation through some pretty tumultuous times. We've pastored up here in Cincinnati since 2012, and there's been some racial tensions, can I say, throughout that season, and walking through those with people that don't look like me, whose skin color might lend them to be hostile toward me even, but instead finding ways to bridge that gap and the inherent bias that we all have, and ask questions and be open-minded and hold our own views really loosely. Like I'm telling like this, like, okay, I'm just gonna set my view off here to the side. Help me understand how you view this. And and why do you think like that? But in a non-accusatory way. And so having done that as a pastor and having helped other people reconcile, because it, trust me, we've had people come in to our congregation that were quite prejudiced one way or the other. It depends on the color of your skin. Anyone can be prejudiced. And we've seen those prejudices break down, which is so heartening that I know that we as a culture can do it, because who am I? I'm not anybody special. These people that I've worked with aren't anybody. We're just normal people. But if we can do it, if we can go outside of our comfort zones, then I know other people can too.
And Cece, what's one phrase that keeps you grounded in challenging times?
I think it's the hope that I have just in my faith that no matter what may come, um, I have hope, and I know that without a doubt, I'm here for a reason and I have a purpose.
Now, I seen all of the above. What does that mean to you in context of life and work?
You've seen what? I'm sorry.
All of the above. So I've seen that phrase in a couple things that you have either on your website or something, and it's all of the above. So what does that represent for you?
I'm honestly not very sure about that, but I'll take a stab at it. I think it means like we need to be open-minded and understand that sometimes the answer isn't yes or no, but it is all of the above. And and what we view as wrong and from our own understanding could be right from someone else's understanding. We just need to switch our viewpoint. And so I think that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, okay. Like,
Like we have
now
a
I'm
lot
gonna
of
have to
questions
go
that
back
came
and
in
look
through
at
CC today, and I'm trying to get them all out here, guys. Like I got 2 pages here full of questions that are here.
I'm trying
And
to remember, like, now I have to go back and look at my own website. Like, what's that? What's that? That's a great
I'm not sure if
question.
it was
Wow,
a website or
threw
a
me.
podcast or something, but I
Oh,
have the
maybe.
question here of all of
Yeah,
the above.
maybe.
So, like
Mhm.
I was floored with questions for you, CC. So I don't know.
Mm.
One of my listeners must be really. I want to get more about her. So,
That's
um,
awesome.
one word to describe your storytelling.
Bold.
Ooh.
I do not really worry about offending anyone. In fact, I kind of want to push on people's buttons. I want to tackle the issues that no one talks about, and I want to press up against those cultural assumptions we all have. I want to challenge them, and I'm not afraid to do that. Maybe a little too bold at times, and as a woman, that can be an interesting situation to be in, right? So I've had to learn to moderate that with a lot of love and a lot of encouragement, like, "Hey, you can do this. Come on with me, but let's face this together." And so I think there's a boldness, but also a love and a hope, all encourage, all rolled up into one. But I would say in my writing, it's bold. I've been told that by readers as well.
And I like that you said that word bold because that's the word you gave me to describe yourself was bold.
Yay!
So see, the bold came out.
Bold. She's bold.
I think as women, we need to be bold. It's not being rude. It's
Mhm,
not being, but we need to be bold.
mhm,
We're passionate about something and we're passionate about change. We need to be bold. We need to push those buttons. We
mhm.
need to ask those questions.
I will say this, if you have a passion or a vision in your heart, nobody but you can articulate that. You have to be the one to say that. No one else is gonna do it for you.
And we have a question here. The book that has impacted you the most. What is it?
The book that I've read is it's gotta be, hands down, well, The Hunger Games, as far as just seeing a pattern that challenges an establishment in a way of thinking and in a way that also weaves in hope and courage. But I would even say just personal, like my own life, the book Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud has just personally benefited me as well as the Bible. I just both of those are like on my desk on my side table and they're all tabbed. So
And
fiction and nonfiction.
where's your favorite place to write or reflect?
You are seeing my writing place right here. This is where I write. I write exactly where I'm at right now. And sometimes I stand, sometimes I sit. Reflection happens in a lot of different places. Sometimes it happens out in nature. Other times it happens standing right here. Sometimes it happens in my morning easy chair with my cup of coffee. But reflection happens multiple times in a day.
And then next question we have is
Yeah.
dystonian world or medical missions. Where have you felt most like a superhero?
Writing a dystopian world or medical missions. I think in the missions, I would have to choose that because when I'm writing, I'm letting my characters be the superhero.
We have a question about a superhero. Let
Mhm.
me find it.
Yeah.
You describe yourself as putting on a superhero cape at night to rescue your characters. What is it about dystopian worlds that inspire you the most? That's
I
it.
think it's dystopian. I think it's that they're impossible situations. They can feel like there's no way out of this. Like you can't escape Big Brother. You can't escape the oppressor. You can't escape this. But yet, young adult dystopian in particular, we see that there is a way through, and there is a way to find freedom, not only for yourself but also others.
And the next question: if readers take one message away from Divided,
Mhm.
I can't even say this word. Tetralogy. Divide.
Tetralogy,
Yeah,
tetralogy.
there you go. Divided, cage, unheard, and deception. What do you hope it will be?
That living life in a silo is boring. That's the message that I hope comes across. That when we live in communities that look like us, think like us, have our same belief systems, have our same viewpoints and biases, that we're not challenging ourselves. We need to get outside of those silos, those cultural silos, and really experience a full life lived with a diverse community. That's the message I hope people say.
I like that you said boring because when we all if we all eat puff wheat, we all look like puff wheat, right? Like we need to eat some fruity pebbles sometimes. Like yeah, yeah, that's my favorite. I threw it out there. but
That's funny.
but
I can't
we
remember the last time I had Fruity Pebbles.
right like fruity pebbles is like my favorite. Like we just gotta
Mhm.
switch it up once in a while because it does get boring if we're always eating puff wheat. I don't like puff wheat. I don't know how many people out there, my listeners, like puff wheat, but
I'm
you
okay
know
with oatmeal. Rice
oh,
porridge, I'm okay with either one of those, but puff wheat, I
right.
don't
I
know.
think that was the cereal that all kids remember it as don't
Yeah,
touch. I want to get
especially
into
if you're of a certain era, right?
right. Let's get into the family values. What
Yeah.
role does your family play in inspiring your creative process?
I could not do this without my family. First off, my husband Steve is a cheerleader. He doesn't look like one, doesn't sound like one, and maybe to other people he doesn't act like one. But he was the one really just pushing me to set a date, set a pub date, and get this baby out. Let's get it out, go. And he tells everyone about my books. I think he actually talks about my books more than I do, which is really funny to me. But yeah, he's my cheerleader. He says his goal in life is to retire and be my book Sherpa, which also makes me laugh. And then,
I like when husbands are cheering on their wives. We need more of
yes,
that.
yes, he knows I'm bold and stubborn, and I'll get there. But yeah, and then my kids, Ruth, Zach, and Katie Rose, have always just been so supportive. Ruth is my proofreader. And then Katie Rose is a great person to bounce plot ideas off of. Zach, I think I asked him about 50,000 questions, getting inside the head of an 18-year-old young man, because that's what he was at the time when I was writing. So I needed to really have his wisdom. I'd be like, Mom, I'd never say that. Like, don't, no, get that. No. And he's
Well,
like,
we don't talk like that.
no. He's like, this is what I would say. And I'm like, really?
I think it's important to get our kids'
Yes.
feedback, especially if you're writing for the youths. Get your youths involved and say, like, do you think your friends would enjoy this? Is this how you guys talk? Like,
yes.
I think it's important.
Yeah, but I also had people outside of my community, outside of just in who had a different upbringing and ethnicity, or a different ethnicity than I am, read it too. Because I'm like, where are my blind spots? What am I missing? That was valuable feedback. So I had it. I don't ever write from my own perspective. There's no white female that I write from their perspective. And so I am always in someone else's head.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we have a question here. What's one book you wish you had written?
One book I wish I had written, probably Parable of the Sower. Octavia Butler is brilliant. I don't think you could ever produce a book like that again, because you would never be able to do it like she did, and it wouldn't be as good.
What's that book based on for anybody?
It is. It's kind of like a post-apocalyptic, showing America after a civil war, and they're living behind walls, but it's for defense and safety and security. And the main character kind of ventures out. They're forced to venture outside of that, and they encounter a lot of obstacles. But it's a classic in the dystopian genre, but it also kind of defined her voice as an author.
We have a question that just came in. What does dystopian mean?
Dystopian is a alternate future, or a different future based on one particular oppressive pattern, or sin, if you want things, call it religious sin pattern, one evil that then controls the world. So I'll take well-known instances. So Hunger Games, for instance, allows the classism and the separation by economic class. So the districts were enslaved in a way to the capital, allows that to control the narrative and define the struggle and the story as it evolves through those books. Or Divergent, it's based upon genetic differences and genetic coding, and the flexibility of thinking, although you don't really know that in the first book. The first book is based on the actual group that you join, where you test and join. But you don't know until later what the whole point of that is. So it takes one thing and controls the narrative with that.
And this is a question way back. So it says, your very first published story is in 4th grade, Touch on Civil Rights. Yeah. How has that early awareness shaped the way you write stories today?
So in my defense, this was before the time of the internet, and I didn't know that a book had also been written and published well before of this idea of a family joining Martin Luther King on a civil rights march, a white family joining Martin Luther King Jr. And so in my defense, we didn't have the internet, so I couldn't exactly search for similar titles. But we had a 4th grade writing assignment, and I was interested in this even as a 4th grader. And so I put my little book together, we wrote it, and we bound it. So I said it's published, but it's not really available for sale. It's just published, as you do when you're in elementary school.
So was that like a class assignment?
Yeah, English class.
So are your children into the history of the Civil War as well?
I would say they are to their own, like, varying degrees. They've always grown up in a ethnically diverse church, and, so they've always just done life in a diverse way, and I think the first time they all realized that not everyone is like that was really eye-opening for them, and then me too, like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to help them, like, not feel judgmental toward people that haven't grown up in this diverse life." Um, and instead invite people into it and, "Oh, come join, come see," kind of feeling. Um, so yeah, but they probably, I would say none of them have delved into the history of slavery and the history of Civil War quite in the same way I have. They're all science nerds. It's just what it is.
So we got some science books coming.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I got 2 engineers and a chemist.
You just never know what kind of book will come out of them, right?
If anything, it would be dragons,
Oh, well, look at that
like
dragon.
science fiction, like way into the science fiction fantasy realm. That would be any book that came out of them.
I think we need more stories on dragons. I love dragons. My son's a big dragon guy too. So
I have grown to love them based on my youngest daughter's obsession with dragons.
I think my favorite dragon movie is Dragonheart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I don't know. There's a new series that's on. Is it Prime?
I don't watch
It's almost
Prime,
like it's like Thorns.
I don't know.
I can't think of it right now. I'm drawing a blank. But let's get back into
Yes,
some of these
yes.
questions. What do you hope readers feel or understand after engaging with your work and reading your work?
I hope that they feel hope and that they're given courage to face whatever they have to face in their lives, whether that's a chronic illness or bullying at school or a difficult career decision or a headline that really scares them, that they learn to see the world through the lens of hope, and that, okay, I can be courageous, and working together with people, we can figure out a way.
And do any of your characters bring awareness to mental health?
Yes. So my third book is a whole journey Harriet takes into healing from trauma and learning how to grieve, and releasing grief, acknowledging grief, dealing with grief. So yes, that is a very strong theme in the third book. During the first 2 books, it's less about mental health and more about character development and collaborating, and a little bit with Rose forgiveness, but I wouldn't really characterize that as mental health.
And do
But
you feel that
Harriet, yes.
And do you feel that these books would help anybody struggling with mental health?
I would think that they would, just because of the idea of courage and hope in the face of a difficult situation.
And we talked about this. I think it was with Randy, on how books help with mental
Mhm.
health. It takes you out of that heaviness sometimes when you're in a
Yeah.
depression and stuff like that, right? When you read a book,
Mhm.
and you realize you're not alone. The story and
Yeah.
the character also struggles. I believe that storytelling and books are the new way
Mhm.
of helping people that are living
Mhm.
in silence and isolation as well.
Absolutely. Yes, and I love Randy Lee's dedication to really serving mental health and really hitting on that topic. But I think even in an entertaining narrative, which I hope my books are entertaining, it allows people to escape what they're currently seeing and dealing with, and then see someone else overcome an enormous obstacle in the case of both Marcos and Rose.
And Cece, how has your writing and perspective on current projects evolved over time?
I think what started out as a very like action-oriented narrative has gained depth of emotion and character growth as I've grown as a writer and realized, oh, like it's okay to feel emotions, Christy. You can do this. My emotional range as a writer has increased as well, and so now people will see that in the narratives themselves.
And what's next on your creative and personal journey?
So I send Betrayed, which is book 3, to my editor next week. And then I am in the midst of writing book 4, United. And that is due at the end of October. So my next agenda is to write furiously, actually.
And how long does it take you to write a book?
Uh, so my books tend to be about anywhere between 90,000 and 100,000. Divided was a little on the longer end of that, 118, I think, 118,000 words, or about 360 pages. It takes me for 90,000 words about 6 weeks to write that when I'm focused 80% of my time. So like right now, I don't have time to fix a website. I don't have time to do all this other stuff. It just gets, that's something I'll do in October. I'll deal with that in October. I'm just totally procrastinating some things.
And
And
we
that's
have a
okay.
question. We had a question that just came in. How do you get your titles for all of your books?
That is a great story. So I came up with Divided, and my husband came up with Caged. I was going to call it, I don't even remember what I was going to call it. It was not good. It kind of stunk, actually. And one day he's like, you should call it Caged. I always knew Betrayed and United. So it was really the second book that I was struggling with. And, but yeah, Steve came up with it.
So you got Divided,
Mhm.
Cage, Betrayal,
Betrayed.
Betrayed. It's kind of like what's going on in
It is.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it definitely hits the theme of that book. And I want the title to reflect the theme. I think a title should reflect the theme. It shouldn't be so veiled and obscure that you only get it by reading, all 350 pages and on page 349, oh, there's a title. I mean, I love books like that, but not mine. For a YA dystopian narrative, it kind of needs to be obvious.
And I got a question here about salsa dancing.
Yeah.
Do you do salsa dancing? Like somebody
do,
actually knows you that sent us in, I guess. They're like coffee tea or salsa dancing. What fuels your creativity more?
Yes. Can I say all the above?
I was just
Yes.
salsa dancing one?
I do. I salsa dance. Yeah, Steve and I learned how to ballroom dance like on our 7th anniversary. We just got ourselves some ballroom dancing lessons, and I love it. I love salsa dancing.
I was just like, what? What's this I got to do with all these books that we're talking about?
Coffee, tea, or salsa? Yes. Can I have all three? Not at the same time, but yeah, coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon, and salsa dancing at night.
There we go. Salsa at night, right? Like,
yep.
Salsa dancing is a way of releasing, right?
Yes.
And enjoying the moment.
Yes, and it is so joy-filled. Like, I love salsa, I love disco, I love tango. Just there's so many layers of emotion and expression in all of those dances. I love them.
And what's your final message to anybody that would like to be a reader or a writer in the future?
Go for it. Go for it. It says for writers, go for it. Don't let obstacles stand in your way. For readers, let's do this. Let's do it together.
So, and you target the youths, right? But adults can enjoy these books as well, correct?
Yeah, of course. I've had 70-year-olds email me that they loved it, that their book club read. I'm like, your book club read it? Oh, okay. Wow. All right. Go girls. Just love it. So yes, anyone can read my books. The young people are the stars, and we all need to recognize that they're going to be the stars. And sometimes the old people get in the way. Sometimes they cheer them on. Sometimes they get in the way, but
I think it's cool that a 70-year-old has a book club, right? Like we need to bring book clubs, like, sit around and have a good conversation over a cup of tea, coffee, or salsa.
Oh no, book clubs are alive and well. Yes.
So, Cece, if anybody wanted to reach out to you to have you as a guest or to know more about your books or to get the books, where can they reach out?
On my website is the easiest way. Obviously the https:// all that, ccrobinsonauthor.com. And if they go to my subscribe page, they can sign up for my underground newsletter and join the movement. You'll get Upheaval ebook for free.
There we go. We got a movement going on. We got a movement. Keep it going, right? So your final words, Cece, before we wrap up.
My final words are live life boldly and collaboratively and across cultural divides.
Well, thank you so much. I really
Mhm.
enjoyed this conversation. I got to know you a little bit on salsa, books, writing, family, pastor, all of it, right?
And I
And
danced on camera. Hey, not every guest can do that, right?
right, we got dancing, we got singing, we got speaking lessons, and I really hope you well with your voice in that, and
Thank you.
and bringing that to our attention because we need that. We're just going to do a little summary
Mhm.
and then we're going to wrap up,
Yep.
and I'll be back at 7 p.m. with another returning guest. J.M. Shaw will be here and she'll be talking about her new book and all of that good stuff. So, what a beautiful tea time we've shared with CC Robinson. From her early days of writing to the powerful stories she now crafts, CC reminds us that words have the ability to bridge hearts and worlds. Her journey, woven with faith, resilience, and creativity, calls us to lean into our own gifts and to embrace storytelling as a way of healing, connecting, and transforming. As we close today's conversation, let us carry forward her message that imagination, courage, and compassion can change the world one story at a time. Thank you, Cece, for returning to Tea Time's table, and thank you to all who joined us today. Until next time, may your cup be full and enjoy your stories, and let us all be heard.
Thank you.